Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Divorce-a-Palooza. So, when I got divorced, I was on my then husband's, really like awesome insurance plan. Never had to worry about anything, never paid anything. I mean, really, it came out of his paycheck. So, I never really thought about it. Well, then I had to think about it, and it was extremely stressful. And I had never been on, like, a plan that wasn't a corporate plan because I had worked my whole life before I got married. And so I feel like I'm not alone, and a lot of people who get divorced have these same fears and anxiety. And that's why we want to educate you today. With me is Lorena Tomasini. Lorena is a health and life insurance professional. She's been in the business for 18 years, and the name of her company is Malm Insurance Agency, MALM Insurance Agency. Does that stand for anything, Lorena?
It's actually my initials and my mom's initial when we first
Okay,
started the company together.
love it. Works with her mom. All right, so Lorena, you work with a lot of divorced women who need to get insurance after they get divorced, people like me, but I didn't know you back then, which is a shame. And tell me, do they all feel like I do?
Yeah, I joke around that I help a lot of people that feel lost, confused, and frustrated with finding health insurance because they come from that corporate setting, whether themselves or they always had group insurance through their spouse. And it was kind of like, okay, just something that we have, but never really have to deal with it. And so, while the benefits are pretty much the same because we're going to talk about co-pays, deductibles, and all that fun stuff people love talking about. They just feel very overwhelmed, like, are my doctors even gonna take this? Like, I feel like they think that insurance outside of corporate um structure is like bad or like it's not gonna cover as much. It's just a little bit different, I would say.
All right, now I want to know what the importance is with working with a good agent. Like, what's the difference between a really good agent and an agent that's kind of like, get you a plan and like that's it?
Yeah, I think like a regular agent would not even ask basic questions like who are your doctors? Out of these five doctors, who's really the most important that you really can't let go of, right? As well as medications, that's always a big issue for a lot of people that maybe are on medications. So it's just somebody that's actually asking you questions and not just telling you, oh yeah, insurance is going to be this much and this is your deductible. Like, okay, anybody can do that, but it's really about the day to day of that person using that insurance, what's really important to them.
Okay, that's really interesting because when I got insurance all those years ago, I mean, we're going back like 16 years, she didn't ask me those questions. So if you're watching this, write down all your medications, write down all the doctors you really like that you don't wanna part with. Maybe you have one that you're like, I wouldn't care if I had to switch." But the ones that are really important to you, and that's what Lorena will do. She'll take those names, she'll take the medications, and then she'll look for plans that cover them or cover them the most to get you, like, so you don't have to pay so much. I love that. I feel better
Yeah.
already.
There you go. I mean, and it's part of our process before somebody can even make an appointment with us. We're asking that on their intake form, so that way when we have the appointment, we're already talking to them with solutions in hand based on their needs. And I think the other thing that's important is making sure that you're working with a broker, so somebody that represents multiple insurance companies and not just one company, because maybe that one company is not really the solution for that person,
Okay,
I would say.
what companies like are there companies where you have to just work with the company and they don't have brokers?
That's very few and far between, but they do exist in certain states or certain areas where you can only represent that one company, and well, that's their loss because I believe in offering multiple uh, solutions to my clients. So most insurance companies allow you to contract with different ones. So, off the top of my head, I think I represent about 10 to 20 companies depending on the area or the state. So yeah, and then there's always like that one company that we can't um work with because maybe we don't live in that state, or again they only want you to work for them. So that is what it is, and I could always refer people out if that's really the solution that we see for them. Mhm.
Okay, I have another question. How long does it take from, let's say, you're losing your insurance when your divorce is final? When should somebody contact you? How long before to set this up?
Yeah, so I would say even before they're divorced. So during that divorce process, because a lot of times the attorney also needs to know what the insurance is for like the financials. Um, and it's also just having peace of mind. Okay, I know by what date I need to submit this application. And they already know, okay, what they're going to do once they transition. Because if you wait till divorce happens, then you have less time in order to do it. And you still have like 60 days from when you lose that health insurance. But if you don't want to have a gap in coverage, it's important to do things in time.
Okay, tell me what some misconceptions are. What are some fears people have that you're going to say just are not true?
Yeah, so I think a lot of misconceptions when we're looking at individual and family plans, or what people call the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, it's all the same thing. It's just insurance for people that are under 65 and are not offered insurance through their employer. Um, These are regular insurance companies that you know the names of because they exist in the group or corporate world. Um, and there might be others that you maybe have never heard of because they're only companies that exist in that space, right? But a big misconception is that people think it's going to be unaffordable, and that's not the case because it's really based on family size and income, which is what your premium is determined, as well as for some people, like their deductibles and copays, like when they use it, it might also be even more affordable. And then the other misconception I get a lot is, oh, I have this pre-existing condition, it's not going to be covered. And well, that's like the main thing of the Affordable Care Act is that it's a law, right? That change that all insurance companies, even group, of course, have to cover pre-existing conditions. If you have a dependent, they can be on your policy until age 26. And then there's also minimum essential coverages. Basically, all plans have to cover doctors, specialists, hospital, mental health, maternity, prescriptions, right? So the same thing that you have through your group insurance is just looking at it outside of that, and then just figuring out which one is the best option.
Okay, now these plans are also for people who are stay-at-home moms, right? So even if you don't have a job, so when you said people who aren't in the corporate world, this is for somebody who has your own, if you have your own business, maybe you have a side business, maybe you're not working yet at all and you just need a plan because you're planning to go back to work in a year or whatever. And
Right.
or you work for a company that doesn't offer insurance or you don't work enough hours.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, so just people that are not offered insurance and they do plan on filing taxes. So that's really important because the money that they're giving people to help them pay for the insurance, it's a tax credit. So you must file taxes. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to work and not file taxes. Well, then you could still buy insurance just at the full cost, right?
Okay, now
But
Lorena,
yeah,
I
and then
want to get
self-employed
yeah.
also should be reporting their net income and not gross, which is also a misconception I see. Mhm.
Okay, I also want to go back to this pre-existing condition. So if somebody, let's say, is watching this and they're like, "Well, I have diabetes. I hope that doesn't raise my insurance." You don't even ask them to put it on the form because it's no longer even an issue. So it doesn't matter what you have. The Obamacare made it so it was had to be include everybody, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's a big change because before we used to have to ask people, as you mentioned, I've been doing this 18 years. So I remember having to go with like 10 pages of questions, do you have this, that? And so, yeah, it would be based on your health is really what would make you be eligible for the insurance, right? But now It doesn't matter if somebody has pre-existing conditions, as long as it's something medically necessary, it has to be covered by the insurance,
Okay.
which is I think a big relief for a lot of consumers. Yeah.
What about a person who's getting divorced after 30 or 40 years? The person might be 60. So you're on that brink, 65. You can't get Medicare until you're 65. Is that right? And
Correct. Hmm.
so, and then even with that, you need supplemental insurance. Do you sell that supplement to Medicare?
Yeah, so for Medicare, it's two types. There's the supplement and then the Medicare Advantage plan.
Okay. What's the
Mhm.
difference?
A supplement, basically, you can go to any doctor that accepts Medicare, and then it helps you cover that 20% that original Medicare does not cover. And then a Medicare Advantage plan is more like a traditional insurance through an employer, let's say, where you have a list of doctors and hospitals that you can go to. And then it also includes, for the most part, prescription drug plans, and some additional things like dental, vision, hearing. They're very popular for people that really don't travel and they just, they get their health care needs met where they live.
Okay. And, but also aren't the Advantage plans more, but you get more?
No, usually Advantage plans are zero. Some areas you
Oh.
might pay a premium. It all
So
depends
the
where you live.
supplemental is more. Okay, I thought it was
So
the
yeah.
reverse.
No,
Okay.
no, no. So the supplemental, you have to pay a premium for the supplemental plus pay for Part D, which is prescription drug plans, and also pay for the Part B premium. So there's a specific market for that. I don't think it's for the majority of retirees, right? It just depends. It's going back to doing a needs analysis and what their budget is in that case and what they're looking to do.
Lorena, I feel like you know the answer to every single question. Okay, very knowledgeable and experienced. If my viewers and listeners want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
The best way is through our office number, 786-244-7079. They can just text the keyword friend and then that'll ask them a few questions to determine what they're looking for more information on.
Okay, or they can just call.
Yeah, of course. Of
Mhm.
course, you can always
Okay,
call.
or your website is malm, malmins.com. And then I want to tell my viewers you can also find Lorena in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Lorena, thank you so much. I actually learned a lot in this conversation.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, everyone, hope to see you real soon.